On this episode, we talk to a true legend. Nasir Jones, known to the world as Nas, is one of hip-hop's most respected artists. Since his instantly classic debut album Illmatic was released in 1994, Nas has found himself at the forefront of hip-hop. His intelligence, talent, and dedication to his craft are second to none, and we were honored to be able to talk to him and ask him about some of his lyrics that have long puzzled us. Rap Genius co-founder Ilan Zakori spoke to Nas at a recording studio in Los Angeles.
Definitely the most debated Nas line on Rap Genius is from Illmatic, and it's "Time is Illmatic, keep static like wool fabric." So I wonder if you could tell us what that means.
I mean, you know, electricity is just amazing. You know, wool fabric, certain different type of fabrics and materials, they produce some kind of electricity. You know how it is.
Yeah.
It's also found in the kinkiness of most black hair, black people's hair and stuff like that. You know, I keep static, you know, that's hood life. You know, static is beef. You know, static is kind of an old school phrase, but that's an ill phrase, static. You know, who wants some static? That's how they used to say back in the days when I was a kid. Keep static like wool fabric. You know, static was just the electricity static, you know, when you do your clothes and you see a spark in your clothes, and a little small, like blue-white fire, a blue-white flame in your clothes and shit. So, y'all know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the idea of like people on the internet decoding lyrics? You think that's cool?
Hell yeah, it's cool, man. You know, I'm an MC, so I'm all for it. You know, when you decode lyrics, you know, you really it's the language of the people, so you listen to what's being said, and you find new ways to look at life and new ways to look at, you know, different ways to explain different things. And lyrics, you know, open up that door to a whole new world of explaining life and things and situations. Definitely.
Cool. I got a question about like the word Illmatic itself. I heard Tragedy saying "Forget ill, I get Illmatical" on a Marley Marl track in '88. So I was wondering if that was a word that was going around Queensbridge, or did you make that word, or was that like a slang for you and your friends, or what was the deal?
Yeah, that was a slang. That was a slang in Queensbridge. There was a few dudes I knew. Well, one dude, especially on my block on Vernon, who had the name Illmatic Ice, and the whole hood knew Illmatic Ice. You know what I mean? But that was just a slang. If you had a name like that, you was like the epitome of ill. You know, so Illmatic is just a word in my neighborhood forever. Yeah.
Cool. I got a question about a couple of your album covers. Who's the guy pouring champagne on Street's Disciple on the cover?
Oh man, that's one of the disciples. You know, he must have been Peter.
All right, we'll put that down as Peter.
But he had the N hat, so maybe his name was something else. Like,
gotcha.
You know.
And then what about the pigeon on Stillmatic? What's that?
Man, the pigeon is, you know, it's just birds. You know, it's just New York street birds. The flying rat. But pigeons. You know, I respect the birds. You know, I respect the bird games, the bird world. You know, the shout out to Mike Tyson. You know, because he really knew how to. That's a New York bird. It's a world bird, but that's the real bird. You know, not to disrespect the pigeon by calling it a rat with wings. Really, it's just that's our people's the pigeon.
All right, I got another line that's a mystery to the Rap Genius community. This one's maybe a little dirty. I don't know. It's the line, "You'll be aight like blood money in a pimp's cum," or maybe it's pimp's cup. I'm not sure I heard it right, but nobody on Rap Genius knows what that means.
It's pimp's cum.
Pimp's cum. Okay.
Around that time when I wrote that song, that's a song called "Take It in Blood," and that was my way of saying, you if you want what I have on, you got to take it in blood. Like, if whether it's whatever I'm wearing, like I shall not be robbed by no man in the street. In my life, I've been robbed by educated people with MBAs and degrees, and educated thieves. I've been robbed, So the business world are way more treacherous than any street person I came with. I'd rather have been robbed in the streets than get caught by how I got caught in life. But taking the blood means if you want to rob me, kill me. And I'm alive, so I've never been robbed in my life. So when I said, you be all right, it's just like, however you feel about what you're doing with your life, you feel like however you feel, live your life. You be all right. But this is street shit, so it's like Donald Goines inspired that line. I was reading some of his shit, and Robert Beck, and they talked a lot about the pimp life and the way the streets were in the 50s and 40s. So I was encouraged by Donald Goines, and I was just really just trying to relate to the streets with that line.
Cool. That leads me to like a political question on like black president. You sounded very hopeful about Obama presidency, but you also like indicated that you had a little sense that things might not work out. You said like when he wins, will he really care still? What's your opinion of how things are going so far?
Oh man, I never trusted politics ever in my life. I never cared because politics never cared about people like me. Barack Obama is just too good of a person for the job that he has to have. The job that he has to have is, I just take my hat off to Barack because he's out here talking about healthcare and things that all people need, things that other countries have, and people are mad at that. And there's nothing. It seems like there's almost like nothing he can do to make people happy. It's an impossible job. But at the same time, I don't see anybody that can really come in there and do any better. So I think America's in a crazy place right now, and Barack's in a tough position, and he just seems like a real good man. He seems like a true American, a real American, and unfortunately, that position that he's at, they don't want real people. They don't want human beings. They want monsters there who are crazy about money, and I don't know how he can balance being a human being and also satisfy Republicans and satisfy the nuts here in this country. You know what I mean? I take my hat off to him. I think he's doing an amazing job at just keeping his sanity. Yeah.
Another big question on Represent. You say, "Gods, I don't believe in none of that shit." And in later songs, you seem more positive or open to religion. I know you've studied a lot of religion. Where are you at these days? Where are your religious views at?
Well, gods, I don't believe in gods, plural. At that point, I was learning about Greek gods, and I've learned about African gods, and there's a god of the tree and a god of the seas and a god of the skies, and then there's Zeus and all of these interesting stories about people, about gods, and it was just too much for me at that age. So about gods, I don't believe in none of that shit. Your facts are backwards. So at the time when I said that, some 5%ers thought I meant the 5% nation gods. And I didn't even think that deep when I wrote it to talk about 5% nation gods, because at that time, 5% nation was deep in the hood, and that influenced me. So I wasn't talking about that. But yeah, when I wrote that, it was just like, it was like every god that was over humans, I was questioning that, man. Just didn't understand it. I didn't understand it. I needed someone to explain me. I didn't trust pastors, preachers, and stuff like that.
We'll be right back with the rest of our talk with Nas. You're listening to Outside the Lines with Rap Genius. Welcome back to Outside the Lines with Rap Genius. I'm your host, Same Old Sean. We began the second half of our conversation with Nas by asking about perhaps his most famous lyric.
When you wrote "Sleep is the cousin of death," did you have any idea it would become such an iconic line with T-shirts and everybody knowing it and everything like that?
Yeah, sleep is a cousin of death was around before I was born. That was just a saying and a spirit, you know. That's African, and that's where it came to me. That's how it came to me.
Cool. One of my favorite lines on the record on Illmatic is on halftime when you say, "I bag bitches up at John Jay." Is that really a pickup spot? Are there any stories about that?
Pickup spots for me was every high school. Of course, Hillcrest in Queens, John Jay, St. John's. The high schools were it. That's where all the girls were when I was coming up.
Ever since I heard Smokin', I've been trying to develop my own potent creep move. What's a potent creep move to you? What would you have in mind?
What verse was that?
It's just in the hook. You say, "Is your creep move potent?"
Oh, I mean, you know how you move. You know, you have to be focused in the way you move, whether you're moving with, you know, you riding dirty or you know, doing your thing or whatever it is. As long as you're moving focused and strong, your focus is strong on how you're moving through life. That's all.
All right, one more Illmatic question. In the world is yours, you say, "The fiend of hip-hop has got me stuck like a crack pipe." Does the analogy go all the way? Are there downsides to hip-hop addiction like there are to crack?
Hell yeah.
What are the downsides?
Downsides is you start to believe that you are God, the king of the world, you're this and you're that, and you invented everything, and you become self-centered, and you know, you become lost in your own fame, success. You start believing it, and you should. A part of it you should believe because you needed to be competitive and you needed to believe in yourself and know that your shit is great. But the fiend part of it is just like anything else. Too much of anything will kill you.
Got a word association game. I'll just say somebody and you tell me what you think. Lil B.
I don't know. I know a Lil B from Queensbridge. Bishop, what up?
Kendrick Lamar.
Future.
That's racist.
Never. I don't know.
Drake.
My man.
All right, cool. Some questions about your new album, Life is Good. People are real excited, especially people on Rap Genius, Love Odd Future. People are excited about your collabos with Tyler, Haji Beats, Frank Ocean. Also, I saw your interview with Tyler. I thought there was some good rapport there. You like working with those guys?
Those dudes are real music, man. Those dudes they love what they do. They're real fans of music. Spoke to Frank Ocean the other day through the text. You know, Frank Ocean asked me what's up with Christmas. Maybe he got some plans. I don't know. But I'm dying to work with Frank. Frank is my dude. I was excited to see him on the Throne album. And Tyler, I'm just excited about him because he's just I don't give a fuck kind of dude, you know. And, you know, I'm excited to see where all these young guys are going. Drake, Kendrick, Cole. I'm excited to see what they're gonna do and who they're gonna be. I'm excited about it. You know what I mean? Because I'm watching them come up. Is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's cool. We're working with these guys who are kind of like the future of hip-hop, and then there's guys who bring a lot of people like myself back to some really great memories, like working with AZ again on Life is Good. Real excited about that. He was...
Well, let me say, Life is Good, man, is a light. I'm always fighting the dark, I feel like. More recent in the last 8-10 years of my life. So when I say Life is Good, that's how I feel every day. So when people ask me about the album title, that's how I feel every day when I say life is good. But basically, don't be surprised if the title changes to something, to the next chapter of Life is Good. Even though that's sort of the theme of the stuff I'm making now and the music I'm making. But life is good is just how I feel like no matter what, you gotta always remember the light. You gotta always remember the good energy in life. And then that's all I'm promoting. And if it comes out to be that title, then that's it. But that's the vibe I'm on regardless, you know?
Cool. And last question, just I was listening to Like Smoke, and it's just a real beautiful song. And it just seems like you and Amy had a real intense connection and like desire to be around each other. Is there anything you want to say about working with Amy or anything like that?
I mean, how cool is it to meet someone who you share the same birthday with, who's a great artist?
Yeah.
When does that happen? That doesn't happen too much. So I think that was the connection overall. And then on top of that, I didn't get a chance to really know her that much. I knew her through music, I knew her through Skype, I knew her through texting, I knew her through telephone, I knew her through hanging out one time in London, like one trip in London, just hanging with her. But, you know, I met her through Salam Remy. And I mean, the greatest thing and the fucked up thing is that the greatest thing and the thing that's sad is that I met someone who shared my same birthday, who we had no competition, we had no beef, we had no tension, nothing like that. It was just, it was like we always knew we were supposed to be cool. And that's as far as it goes, you know. She was like a sister to me. So, you know, being a part of her project to me was an honor because we never got a chance to do the music that we were talking about doing together. And just to be a part of her project and have her music today with the new record she dropped is a blessing, you know. Yeah.
Well, it's an honor to be sitting here with you. From my perspective, you're the most lyrically gifted rapper ever, and we're excited to have you be like the first rapper on Rap Genius to come up with some explanations of his own lyrics and add that to the site. And we talk to other rappers, and they say, I'll do it if Nas does it. So that's exciting to us, too.
Lyrics are everything, man. I wish B.I.G. was around to explain it, you know, because he was that Alfred Hitchcock dude. I wish that Pac was around. Pun. So many lyricists were around who really cared about the art form. Who those guys cared about the art form so much, and they were trendsetters. You know what I mean? There was nothing like them. There'll never be anything like those guys. So the fact that there's artists today that want to talk on Rap Genius about our genre, our art form, man, that's a beautiful thing. I love it, and I'm here to support that.
All right, thanks very much.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Thanks. All right. It's all about getting a dollar. Don't trust nobody. Keep your eyes open. Don't play with nobody. Focus on what you're supposed to get out of it. This shit is dangerous. It'll take you down. What's the difference between the rap game and the crack game?
Welcome to Outside the Lines with Rap Genius. I'm your host, Same Old Sean. This episode, we celebrate 20 years of Nas's classic debut, Illmatic, by bringing you a live conversation with him from this year's South by Southwest Music Festival in Austin, Texas. I was joined at the Rap Genius Ranch by RG's Nicole Otero. We sat down with Nasty Nas and asked him about lyrics from his classic record. Many of the questions were from Rap Genius users, and you'll hear their usernames shouted out throughout the interview. In addition, there's a Q&A section at the end with the audience, and one of the people asking questions is noted A&R exec Kiambo Hip Hop Joshua, so keep an ear out for that. A special note about this show, because it was recorded in front of a live audience, there is a little bit of background noise, and my and Nicole's voices may be slightly lower than Nas's. So sit back, relax, and get ready for a guided tour through the most important hip-hop album of all time from the man behind it. If you want to see Nas's answers in the context of his lyrics, make sure to check out his verified Rap Genius account at rapgenius.com/Nas. And with no further ado, here he is.
So the first question we just wanted to ask is like, why the wild style sample right on the Genesis? Like, what did that have to do with your Genesis in hip hop?
That was the first movie. That was the first hip hop movie, I think, yeah. So when I saw it as a kid, I always had it in my head, like there was a crew in there called Double Trouble, and they had these routines back and forth, and it was real dope. So when I started working on the album, it just hit me. It just felt like, go there. You know what I mean? Go there. I didn't even have to think about it. It was like, this has to start with something from Wild Style. Kind of to let you know how much of a fan of this culture I am. You know, so before you hear the album, let's go here. You know, I guess it was 10 years or something before, after Wild Style was out, something like that. So it wasn't really that long ago, but it seemed like so long ago that movie was out. So boom, put it on the album.
And that Double Trouble routine you recreated later with AZ.
Yeah. So Sprite comes.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask about, this comes from our user One Love. Appropriately enough, from a New York State of Mind. You've talked about the never sleep, because sleep is the cousin of death line, the history of that. But there's this line right after it that's just incredibly poetic and in some ways equally famous. Beyond the walls of intelligence, life is defined. And I was hoping you could break that down for us.
We are not smart enough to figure out life. I feel like life is tests, a bunch of tests. And we get a lot of answers right, but we're not going to figure it all out, because if we figure it all out, there's no reason to be here. So all the way to the end, you know what I mean? So we can try as much as we want, and we can come up with a good routine to live by that could get us through and be happy with that routine in life. But, you know, so many people are just trying to figure out what it's all about, whether it's through Christianity, church, and those people believe in that, or Islam, and, you know, Muslims believe in another way. But I feel like we gotta go. If we really wanted to understand it, it's beyond, it's not possible. I get it, you know. Sometimes I think too much.
Me too. It never stops, right?
Yeah, it doesn't stop, man.
Well, this is an easier question, I think. So on Life's a Bitch, but also on the whole album, AZ is the only feature. Was that a conscious decision? How did it come about? Why only him? Why him?
I guess like when I met him, you know, he was up and coming, and I was all about what's new, you know. So I saw him, he was up and coming, and I think we had a lot in common. Just like growing up, we had a mutual friend, passed away, rest in peace, Yami, who was the guy who came to me and said, you gotta meet this kid from Brooklyn. Yami was known all over New York. Yami be in the Bronx. He'd be in Brownsville. He'd be in Astoria projects. He was like that. So a lot of people knew him, so he knew AZ from Brooklyn. And he kept telling me, yo, you guys remind me of each other in a way I think it can be big. Hey, this is before I even had an album out. You know, he's like, this could be big. So when I did meet him and we go back and forth, you know, I liked what he was doing the most. Yeah. And she's nice. She's like incredible. And once we did the song, once we went through a few verses, he had a whole bunch of rhymes. And I knew when I heard the right one, I'd say, yeah, that's the one. And he said that rhyme, and I was like, damn, it's crazy.
Well, I had seen an interview where he actually said that like it took him a long time to feel like that wasn't a bad verse.
Oh, wow.
It was like later that he felt like while it was happening, he was like, I did not feel like that was a good verse, which like, for me, I remember hearing that the first time and thinking it was incredible lyrically. But he said it was like later after he realized the magnitude of the album that it was like, okay, maybe that was better than I initially thought.
A lot of people that's really good at something, they do that, you know.
So, on The World Is Yours, you have the line about dwelling in the rotten apple, you get tackled or caught by the devil's lasso. And so much of the album is looking at Queensbridge, right? And it's about Queensbridge. It's on the cover. The sides of the album are named after, different parts of Queensbridge.
Right.
When you reference New York City here, what was your view of New York City at the time? Because you talk about New York as a whole here with the rotten apple. Like, when you thought of New York City, did you think of like outside Queensbridge, or was it entirely based on your experience in Queensbridge?
When
you talk about New York, the album as a whole, the rotten apple, were you thinking about Queensbridge or about the city?
No, New York. Yeah, the whole city. The Big Apple. So it's the rotten apple too. It's like we got all kinds of different ways of talking about the Big Apple. So yeah, the rotten apple. Cause shit, it was a lot of shit was like it was grimy. There's a lot of griminess. So, you see that. You live around it. And you just, say stuff like that.
Yeah, on the same song, you say, born alone, die alone, keep my crown a throne, and by sound alone, cave inside 1,000 miles from home. So we were just wondering about this lyric, both as it relates to you as like a person, because it feels like a very personal line, but also literally at the time, considering like other crews that were out trying to get soul, like how did you feel just sort of also being kind of alone compared to like rolling with the whole crew and being associated with people?
Well, I knew that was the new thing. I knew I was on the new thing. It was the time in rap music for solo artists to really, take their position. Before that, it was everybody was a group. You had a few solo acts, of course, but it was an equal on each side. Solo acts, then a bunch of groups. And I saw it changing. I saw it changing to being more focused on the one guy, like a Rakim or Cool G Rap, or when Ice Cube left NWA and became solo. I saw Busta leaving leaders of the new school. I saw it becoming like people wanting to, they liked the introduction of the crew, like, but then because afterwards, there was still groups. Wu-Tang came, and then they sprouted out and started doing solo projects, but at first it was a group. So groups was still cool, but I knew that one solo, it was time we'd have at least 10 songs from that one guy that you like in that group. And plus, it's more money for me if I'm solo, really. Like, I saw groups like fighting. I saw groups like mad because one got more attention than the other, and then it'd be the end of a great group because inside fighting, some of the greatest bands and rap groups broke up because of whatever differences. And a lot of it had to do with probably finances. So I saw that quick. Like, I don't need the drama. Like, we might start something big and then be fighting 2 albums down, and now the whole dream is messed up because of, I just went dolo.
Well, along those lines, did you ever feel like going dolo had its, like, is there something you feel like you missed not having that crew around you?
There's times like I need 5 of me's. There's times I felt like that, but hey, my bed, sleep in it. I made my bed.
So on that same tune, this comes from our user Shine On and Bleak. So you have the line about the beats make me fall asleep. I keep falling, but never falling 6 feet deep. So what exactly are you saying here? You obviously have another very famous line about sleep. Is this related to that at all?
The beats make me fall asleep. I keep falling. Never. It's like, a dream state. The beat, rap beats put me in a dream state, and I'm falling deeper in the dream state. And then I begin writing in that dream state. I'm in this whole world of my own. I keep falling, but never falling 6 feet deep. It's kind of like, I said sleep because of that. Like, falling into the sleep here because of the beat is rocking me to sleep, but in a good sleep.
Okay, so moving on to halftime, you say both, Nasty Nas and Air are about to cause mass hysteria, or Nasty Nas has to rise because I'm wise. But we actually wanted to ask, because this was in '92 before the album, so earlier than the album. But at what point did you go from Kid Wave to Nasty Nas, and why?
I should have never mentioned Kid Wave.
Sounds like that.
That shit follows me around. Again, 83 is breakdance time. 84, 85, you know? So, again, another movie, hip-hop movie I heard of, Beat Street. Some of y'all in the group New York City Breakers. You had the Rocksteady crew versus the New York City Breakers. And I started to pick out the names and know who's who. Crazy Legs and Mr. Wiggles, Mr. Wave. Mr. Wave was ill. He's like, because everybody wanted to be the best pop locker, right? But his name is Mr. Wave. That means he nails it. And then when he did his thing in the movie, he kills it. So I was like, I'm Kid Wave. Now I could not pop like this dude at all. But in my head, you know, that's what he was a hero. And then one day I saw him on my block. He was on my block, this dude from NYC Breakers, to battle this other dude. I'm like, this dude do movies. He don't have to do this shit. But he's still in my projects. And I'm like, well, Mom, that's Mr. Wave. She's like, I don't care who. Like, I'm like, that's Mr. Wave. I got to stay outside. It's like, you know, it was after school. I was a kid, and it's like, I couldn't even watch the battle. I missed that battle. So that made him more of a legend to me, though. So I was like Kid Wave. Yeah.
When did you make the transition, though?
It wasn't a transition. I had a lot of nicknames back then. So it wasn't like that was my name. Niggas ain't see me and say, yo, what up, Kid Wave? It was just in my breakdancing crew when we was kids. So that followed me everywhere, the Kid Wave thing. But Nasty Nas comes from, first I was Rapper Nas, because it was this kid, this dude named Rapper Ron. And Rapper Ron was dope. So he just walked by and you tell him say a rhyme and he just beat on the building inside the lobby or on the benches and he just freestyle about whatever you ran, Rapper Ron. You know, but, so I was like, I like that, I'm Rapper Nas. So everybody be like, yo, this dude is nice, or this dude is nasty, this dude is nice, or he's nasty. They say that like, this dude, everybody starts saying, this kid is nice, that kid is nice. But nasty meant like, he's on another, you know? So I was like, nasty, yeah, I ain't Rapper Nas now. It's like, so it went from Rapper Nas to Nasty Nas. And I used to have dreads. So I'll give you some more. This kid, DJ Hot Day, he had a lot of jokes back then, and he used to be like, he used to see me, Nasty Nas with the nasty dreads. So he was the first one to call me, even though I had named myself that on the low. He called me that without knowing, just fucking with me. Yeah.
Nice. You have that great line about X-Clan hair with dreads at the top of my face.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, for sure.
So on Halftime, you have that line about go to hell with the foul cop who shot Garcia. And so getting serious for a second, I was wondering if that was, you could tell us a little bit about that.
It was a recent death in, I think, Washington Heights. And this Cat Garcia, I can't remember his last name, he got killed around the time I was writing that song. So I almost dedicated a verse to that issue, but I managed to just keep it in there, just slip it in there really quick. Yeah, it was an incident that happened in, if I'm not mistaken, Washington Heights, New York. Cop killed a kid, a teenager.
So moving on to Memory Lane, this comes from a user named Isaiah G. He said, so obviously you start saying, I rap for listeners, Bunheads, by ladies and prisoners, Hennessy Horrors, and old school. What do you rap for? Do you rap for the same people today? Who do you rap for today?
Yeah, same people. Well, I said I rap for listeners. That was the first line. I rap for listeners. Bluntheads, still rap for Bluntheads. Fly ladies, of course. Prisoners, of course. Word. That's.
On that same tune, obviously, you're remembering, you're looking back at your neighborhood, And you talk about that on that song. You talk about Fat Cat. You talk about Supreme Team, about hustlers, Queens hustlers, from when you were growing up. And so back when you were growing up, back when you were writing that stuff, how did you view people like Cream, people like Fat Cat?
At that point, I mean, I didn't know them. I speak about it the way they were spoken about in the street. You know, it was like Fat Cat. I knew somebody that was related to Fat Cat. I saw their life change because he was rich. I saw them go from rags to riches just because they were related to him. Supreme Team, of course, that name was just huge, you know. It was a rap song. What's the guy's? Malcolm McLaren, I think. He might have made it. The world famous Supreme Team show. So you already had heard of that. So now somebody in Queens, in Jamaica, Queens, had this name, and you know, Supreme comes from the 5%, 5%ers. So you know there was a seriousness to it. And you'd hear about them all the time, all these guys that were in that crew, and you know it was serious. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you said his name, comes from 5% stuff, and there's obviously a lot of 5% stuff scattered throughout the album.
Yeah. It's interesting, man. I mean, I got to meet Supreme later, and it all in New York City mainly. You know, what the 5% Nation was something positive for the kids in the street, and even the mayor at that time was on the cover of the newspaper with the father, Clarence, 13X, leader, father of 5% Nation. They were on the newspaper together because of the work he was doing with the youth. He was doing more than the cops could do, and he was saving lives. So he didn't look down on a street cat. Whereas in the Nation of Islam, you can't play games, you can't drink, you can't smoke weed, you're supposed to be right and exact 100%. So this right here, he kind of allowed people to be them, but they had to have knowledge. They had to gain knowledge every day. And that was something more acceptable by the young, so that became just the words from, the lessons became words in the street. Like you say word. When you say word to somebody, you said, it's a part of saying word is bond. My word is bond. You cut it short. Word. It comes word is bond. Word. A lot of phrases come from peace. When I see peace, you know what I mean? Peace out. That all comes really from so many different words coming. And then rappers was using those words, and those words became international slang words. The whole world started talking like that, So it was already in me. When I was a kid, older God pulled me to the side and told me, not y'all, not the rest of y'all, just you. And he pulled me to the side and he said, I got to give you something. And he gave me some lessons, and he's like, I want you to go over this and talk to me tomorrow about it. So everyone grew up. If you grew up as you was an 80s baby, you grew up with that in your life at some point.
Okay, so on One Love, we just picked the first line, but what a kid, I know should have dropped you in your bag. But really, the question comes from this idea that you're writing. It's almost as if you're writing to someone in jail. Are you writing to someone specific, or across the different verses, or is it just this idea that's kind of prevalent all over Illmatic, that you're writing to people that you knew who had gone away?
Yeah, it's like a combination of people, so it wouldn't be that personal. So the names are real. Dudes I shout out at the end, all that's real. And I just take different situations from them and make it one story rather than, 5 verses about all of them. I just made it one song.
So on the same song, a couple different users actually asked us about this, 2 of them, Thomas Howard and Orogi 1992. You say, then I rose, wiped my blood to ash from my clothes, then froze to blew the herb smoke through my nose, and told my little man I'm a ghost I prose.
It's funny, one of my mans asked me that when it was still just, it wasn't even done, but we should ride around and listen to the album. I was working on it, And he said, what the fuck did you say? I'm a ghost. I'm ghost, I bros.
Yeah, I'm
so,
a bros.
I said, ghost means I'm out.
Yeah.
We should say, instead of leave, let's breeze. In my neighborhood, I don't know if everybody else should say it, but yo, let's breeze. Yo, I'm breezing. Y'all bros. So, so I wasn't thinking about, I thought everybody would know. I'm like.
So it's I'm a bros.
No, I'm ghost. Okay. Not I'm a ghost. I'm ghost, I bros. So it means I left. I breezed. But breezed, you know what I'm saying? So, like.
Set the record straight.
Story. So one time for your mind, which is maybe my personal favorite on the record, you have the line, my brain is incarcerated. And over again, Illmatic talks about jail, and it talks about Queensbridge, and how in some ways they might not be all that different. When you were writing Illmatic, were you thinking about the relationship between jail and your project?
Yes, because it was a possibility every day you'd be there. You'd be one day hanging out, the next day locked up, whether you're guilty or not. So if you're standing next to your boys, you might be doing nothing, but your boys might be doing something. Or they might have just did something that they're not telling you about. And now here the cop car come with that victim in the back seat, pointing in your direction. Or a cop thinks he's recognized you as making a sale. Now he arrests you. Now it's you against his in the court for a direct sale. And it could have not been you. You probably had the same jacket your man had on that just made the sale and he left. And so any day, it could be your day if you're innocent. You know what I'm saying? So if those are the conditions, it wasn't my intentions to write about jail like that. I didn't want to write about jail. I didn't want to just like, I'm going to write about jail. It was my vocabulary. It was my conversation. It was the conversations around me. So that's why it's always there. Yeah.
So unrepresent.
Which is sad. Some sad shit.
I think that like that was, you couldn't escape it even though you were trying not to have that be with this.
No, it's like, there's 46,000 teens arrested in New York City alone every year. That's more than any place in the nation. Between the ages of 16 and 17. 46,000, most black and Latino. So, you see what I was dealing with.
Okay, so kind of unrepresent, you say somehow the rap game reminds you of the crack game. And we chose this line because now this sort of metaphor is commonplace, but I feel like when you were writing it, it was early on. So considering your immediate surroundings and watching everything that you were seeing at the time, like what did that literally mean for you? What were the similarities between the two?
It's all about getting a dollar. Don't trust nobody. Keep your eyes open. Don't play with nobody. Focus on what you're supposed to get out of it. This shit is dangerous. It'll take you down. What's the difference between the rap game and the crack game? You know what I mean? So, and that was before, like, I started seeing more entertainers get arrested after they got on. I got arrested again after I get on. I'm like, how do I get caught up after I'm on? So it was like, if you ride a nice car, you know what I mean? You know what that is in a certain neighborhood is, you looked at like, you can get handled. You can get handled by people that don't like you or cops, whatever. It's the same thing.
One of the best things on Represent, one of my favorite moments is you mark time by what you were listening to, right before the BDB conflict with MC Chan, the time the show takes the walks in. And that got me thinking, obviously being from Queensbridge, being the previous generation of rappers from Queensbridge, how were the bridge wars experienced by people who were actually in Queensbridge? Because you referenced the bridge wars on that song.
It was different levels. Like the older than me, they had known Roxanne Shante really well. They known Marley Marl really well. They were rappers from the older guard. They were from the Africa Bambatas and they knew about that stuff. And they'd been to or was going to the clubs in the city, Latin Quarter, Union Square, the Red Parrot, all these legendary spots that you would go to and see live performances by Run DMC for the first time, Public Enemy for the first time. That older generation, they had a whole different outlook on the battle. They had a whole different outlook because it was Bronx. Bronx started hip hop. What's this guy talking about? He started hip hop. That was the argument. Or what's this guy talking about? Queensbridge started hip hop. So that was the argument. So to me, I'm like, damn, we got my neighborhood out of everybody got a beef with the Bronx about where hip hop started. That shit was crazy to me. So I'm like, damn, this is really ill. So, KRS, we didn't know who he was. Everyone knows him now, but we was like, who is this guy? We really looked at it because Shan was one of my favorites. So it looked like Shan had this hand over fist. No, that's the wrong phrase for that. But landslide. He had this, right? So when KRS, went in, we said, wow, this dude is amazing. And who would have known at that point he would have turned to be one of the rap Mount Rushmore faces. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's like one of the greatest who ever did this. But back then we was all in doubt. No one had heard of him. So it was exciting.
I guess the final one on It Ain't Hard to Tell. The last words on the song and then obviously on the album are Nas's rap should be locked in a cell. So why your raps, not you? And also returning to the cell metaphor.
Why my raps, not me? Well, it was I blame the rap is guilty. Like put it like this. It should be illegal that I'm allowed to talk like this. I can't even believe I got this free. This is what makes me understand the freedom of speech thing. It's like, wow, I didn't really get it. I mean, if somebody's yelling on a megaphone, protest, this place is, you have freedom of speech to say these things, right? That's one level. But now I'm saying the stuff I was saying wasn't ever said before in rap. So I was like, how am I getting away? I'm waiting any day they coming to get me from rap jail, rap prison. Somebody's coming, the Catholic Church, somebody, because I was saying things that wasn't said. So that's why I was like, Nas rap should be locked in the cell. Yeah, because shit is crazy.
You did have, on the first two guest appearances where people heard about you, live at the barbecue in the back of the grill, you had a lot of stuff that was really shocking on there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I was just happy that America is a place where we can say what we got to say. A lot of people are scared to speak out on whatever the issue is. They're scared to say anything. You don't realize what your words can do. And that's what I realized while making that album.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
If there's a question from the crowd.
All right, I got a question for you, really quick. I need a Rap Genius hat. No, you good. You're good. You got one? Who said that? Oh, all right. I need that. Oh, wow.
He calls it Master Syria,
I got a two-part question. One is about the intro to Illmatic and like the inspiration behind that, like Offset in the album. And like whatever if you just EP'd it or whatever, who put the track list, together and how y'all arranged that track list.
So you saying like the intro again?
Yeah, the intro inspiration and the entire track list inspiration.
Well, again, it was Wild Style movie was really the first rap movie. So to me, I felt like there would never be, thank God for Fab Five Freddy and the rest of them, because I think his name is Charles Ahern, who produced the movie Wild Style. Thanks to them, because they gave us a film that recorded the earliest stages of this thing. And without this movie, we would not be able to see what the club looked like. What being a rap star like Busy B in the movie, I don't know if you've seen it, he goes to a motel after the show and writes his name with dollar bills on the bed. Like, that was balling, you know what I mean? And it was for back then. Or the shotgun scene outside when they're about to get jacked. Those were real dudes outside with their gun that they filmed. He said, A to the K? A to the motherfucking K. That was their lingo. There was no script. That was their gun, and they were really outside robbing people. So they were able to put them in the movie. So you get the whole vibe of the city, especially the Bronx had looked like a nuclear bomb had dropped off in there, you know? Landlords were setting their own buildings, and people were setting their own buildings on fire trying to get help. Like, this ain't no way to live. This, you know, you go through there, it looked like a battleground. So they recorded this shit. And that's why the film is so important just in New York history. And so then Blondie's in the movie, you know what I'm saying? And she's like one of the first female rappers and shit. So I had it's too important. So I put that I took it off a VCR tape and I ran it through the console and we recorded it like that. So I did that part. And then I sampled, forget the name of the drum shit from the movie that me, AZ, and Jungle are talking about in the beginning, or talking over that in the beginning. I sampled that myself. And I didn't know what I was doing. I just had the engineer, help me do it. And we just sitting around with Hennessy and weed and everything else, and we just talking shit. And yeah, man, it was like so as far as putting the album together, it was me. MC Search had brought me to Columbia. And he was like, yo, they want to sign you, man. Yo, would you mind if it went through my production company? I'm like, come on, let's get it. So we did the deal, and he was starting to be a producer too. So he had beats for me. So I was writing to him, but I already had my idea in mind. My favorite groups at the time was Tribe Called Quest, Gangstar, of course, Large Professor was my boy. So, and Pete Rock, CL Smooth and Pete Rock. So everybody's dream was to get a beat by Pete Rock. You didn't even think you could get a beat from Q-Tip. Like, all he does is Tribe, Busta a little bit here and there maybe, the Native Tongue crew, but you're not getting no Q-Tip beats. Forget it. That's a Tribe Called Quest. Don't even ask them. Don't even play yourself, right? So Pete Rock, he was doing more beats. He was doing more beats for other acts. But everybody was self-produced. I kind of, Lenore D tells me I fucked the game up because my album's the first one, a new guy with multiple hit producers. That had never been done in rap. So you had, Bomb Squad for Public Enemy. You had Pete Rock for CL Smooth and Q-Tip for Tribe Called Quest. Dre for NWA. They were self-contained. They were self-produced. So I came in the game like, yo, I need beats from all y'all niggas. And I was lucky enough. I was lucky enough that they wanted to do it. And, I took a shot in the dark. But I had a way in, too, because Large Professor was friends with all of them. So he brought me in, and they all mutual friends. So he made the introductions for me to Q-Tip, to Premier, to Pete Rock.
So they helped you put the track list together?
No. I did all of that. I did all that. When I was done, though, Premiere helped me. I didn't know anything about mastering. So I was just, all right, I'm supposed to show up at mastering. I don't know what that is. I had an idea, so Premiere said, don't worry, I'll come through. So Premiere got there before me and started the mastering. I got there, I'm hanging out with him all day watching this process. And he had all the patience in the world to master. He believed in it that much, where he mastered the entire album for me. But yeah, I sequenced it and all of that. Yeah.
In the album, you were dealing with a lot of battles, I want to say, in my mind. You were dealing with the street battle, and then you were also dealing with the metaphysical battle, and you were dealing with the spiritual battle. And I wanted to kind of know, how did you decide which one was the one to keep in the forefront? I I personally want to know that because as a MC, I want to know, like, I battle with, like, trying to keep spirituality in my life, you know, the street or what's happening at home. So I want to know how you do that.
If you put spirituality at the front of everything you're doing, you're going to be the spiritual MC. If you put crime or a street life in the front of all you're doing, you have to be careful to balance that, or you come off as just the street dude, female. So it's important that they can't title you. It's important that, because you want to someday do a street record. Next day you might want to touch the spiritual side. You might want to touch the other side. So you don't want them to say, why are you doing records like this? Because that's what they would do to me. If I made, say, a Uchi Wally or this, they go, oh my God, dude. Like I walked in a club one day and I had a blunt. This was 10, 12 years ago. And I heard these girls saying, oh man, he just messed it up for me. He smoked weed. Yeah, they were like, I heard them talking about how mad they was that I smoked weed. I'm like, I rapped about it back then. Back then I rapped about it all the time. So I'm like, you don't really, like, so they saw something from me probably from a song where I came off as more positive, you know, but so they started to trap me and trying to trap me in those things, you know what I'm saying? So just keep it broad, and it has to be balanced, because a human being is a lot going to them than just one thing. I really personally don't like too many people that only are one thing, because then they really blind. They're not really taking advantage of the rest of the shit out here. You just focusing on one thing. It's like it's a lot to experience out here.
Last question.
Hip hop.
Sorry. Hip hop got a question.
How did you being around Rakim in the studio, and is it true that you did some of your demos during Rakim studio time?
Yes. When I met Large, when he told me he liked what I was doing. He told me he works with Eric B and Rakim and Coogee Rap, and I was like, how did he say that so calm? How do you? Yo, it wasn't like today where there's like 20 amazing motherfuckers. It was like Coogee Rap and Rakim was those other heads on the rap Mount Rushmore. You know what I'm saying? Where there's only what, 4, 5? 4. So that's dumb. He worked with the 2. So he just said it like nothing, and he's like, huh?
The 3.
KRS-One, yeah. I'm not there. I'm not worthy. No, it's.
I think he's a solid opinion, right?
All right. Well. So anyway, he brought me to the studio, and he really was working. I didn't really see Rakim. I saw Eric B. Eric B was the producer of Eric B and Rakim and Coogee Rap. So, you know, him and Large got together, and he got Large to work with him, and Large just started lacing all that shit. And so I would see Eric B all the time. And that was cool to see, because the studio was right near from where my neighborhood was, Power Play Studios. Right. I thought this place, I didn't even care to think where it was. I just knew Power Play Studios is where all of these records were being made. I did not realize it was walking distance kind of from my neighborhood. So when I got there and I'm like, it was this close all along. Like, it was amazing, because I would hear stories about the certain rap groups getting robbed coming in. And I'm like, yo, it's like that? Like, really? And I'd hear the names of dudes that were heavy in the streets, and then meet them in those studio sessions with Eric B. And, so Eric just said, go ahead, work, because Rakim wasn't showing up. So, go ahead, work. Anytime you're ready, he told Large Professor, let him work. So I was working on an album back then. I cut about 7, 8 records that probably Eric B has. I was 16. And, so
more versions? Or,
No, these were songs called Artist and Assassin. This was called 550 Fahrenheit. Another one called something about female, something. I had a few records, yeah. These were not Illmatic records either.
The archive.
Yeah, these are like some other shit. And I met KRS-One there, and I'm like, oh. Actually, no, I didn't meet him. I saw him there. And to me, he epitomized gangster. He's on the front cover of the album cover with the guns and grenades and Criminal Minded. This is the Bronx. Criminal Minded, one of the best hip hop albums ever made. And when I heard him talking, he had a proper way of speaking to this white family that was there. He was talking to kids, and I was like, wow, that's like hip hop etiquette. Like, I'm watching, and I never thought he would talk like that. I just thought he's a murderer. You know what I'm saying? Like, this dude was sounding really, really smart. So it's like, wow. It's like, I learned from that. I didn't meet him that day, but I learned from that, like, this dude is not just a, but you remember Scott LaRock got killed, his DJ, his producer. So I was just happy to see him still making it happen. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
All right. He got one. He's not.
Kills.
All right. I wanted to ask, when you were young, coming out your city, I know it was different artists, different girls. I want to know what inspired you to stay yourself, go with your sound, who you are, and just keep pushing and doing. You're not even worried about all the other extra shit. You was just spitting your bars on the ground. I want to know what inspired you.
I guess if I want to do something, I want it to be right. If I want to do something, do it right. Don't get ahead of it. Always say hip hop is bigger than you. I'm not bigger than hip hop. Don't ever get that twisted. Right. So once you remember why you got into it in the first place, it's not really all about you. It's about this craft that you have and this thing that you love. It's all about, I think, fine-tuning. I think all of us fine-tune hip-hop. You know what I mean? Each album, each song is just our new way of trying to fine-tune it till we get it to perfection. But all of us stray. All of us stray at one time or another. You go this way, you go that way. It's like, and I saw some guys before me, I saw when their style started to change, they started to get a little sexy on you. And you be like, you're like, yo, and then I said, there's a way, you can put on the GQ fly shit and be you and don't care what nobody say, but it gotta really look like you don't give a fuck. But you can't become Aaron Hall.
Yeah. I was just saying, I know you were like young, so you got all these other guys that's already going, and you looking like, okay, I'm gonna take this shit over. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
that's how I looked at it. Yeah. You have to have that feeling. You have to know that you're at that point where, but you worked at it that long that you got it to perfection, and your shit's gonna take shit over. So as soon as I dropped, I said, I got him. And then Biggie came. Fuck my whole plan up. I saw him coming. I saw him coming, man. And when he got it together and they put out the Ready to Die, that changed everything because we weren't selling the records the West Coast was selling. So Biggie and Puff, I remember Puff saying, nigga, when you have gunshots on your record, but when we done, your gunshot, you gonna think that shit went off right in your ear, nigga. He's like the sound effects, that shit you hear on NWA and all of that. We're gonna take it, and they did that. So that, to me, the Ready to Die is our answer to the Chronic. It's an East Coast answer to the Chronic. So it was, and not to, it was like saying, all right, Dre took it here, so anybody else drops an album, we have to be there. You know what I'm saying? So he did that. So that meant that now the rest of us had to go even higher. We were pushing ourselves to go higher. You know what I mean? So that's changed today. But yeah, Biggie changed the game. He was a game changer. Yeah, good.
Yeah, I got one for you. So, like, it's kind of off base of like this a little bit, but there was something you said where you were talking about, you know, if you're going to be a spiritual artist, you're going to be a spiritual artist. You put that in front. You know, you're talking about how going outside gives you more, you know, avenues and lanes. So
Yeah.
Belly's one of my favorite movies, man. Sure, one of my favorite movies. So how was like your work, you know, how were all your albums and your work up until that point, especially working with another artist like DMX, you know, in a movie? Because I feel like that title really helped break artists into the film industry. So like, what was that like for you, that whole experience, and how much your work goes at?
Yeah, I think Hype changed the game. You know, there was definitely, you know, artists doing movies before that, but he made it his. He played by his own rules. He did it his way. His cinema, the way he shot it to me is really amazing. How was it working with them? You said?
Yeah, like how was it working with them, and just like your works like before that? Like how did that kind of open up into the film industry? You know what I mean?
Hype was so dope. Hype was doing our videos. So Hype saw us from a visual, he saw us from a different side. We were just showing up to just, you know, perform in front of the camera, shoot a great video. If you had a video by Hype Williams, you made it, right? That's how it was. So we go do our videos with Hype, and it was like your single was on steroids now. It was, you know, and so he saw it going even further. He saw it going into movies. And I hear him talking every while. A while saying, "You guys could do movies. You guys could do movies." I hear him say that every once in a while. And one day he called me and he's like, "Yo, let's go take a ride up to these mountains and shit and write this fucking movie." And he already wrote it, but he brought me in, you know, to rewrite. And working with DMX was amazing because he had just dropped Get At Me Dog. I had heard him on the mixtapes already, but he had dropped Get At Me Dog, and the character he had wrote, he described DMX to a T. Before we even thought about it, he described him to a T. So the character was already DMX. So when DMX Get At Me Dog came and Hype shot the video, he's like, yo, he came to me, yo, I got Tommy Buns. Who? DMX. I said, oh shit, right? Yes, right? So working with X was ill because we bonded like brothers on the set. I didn't know what he was going to be like. I knew that he was changing the rap game. I didn't know what he was going to be like personally. And dude was immediately, I said, this is one of the smartest dudes I ever met in my life, DMX. Like that fast, just from the way his mind works, the way he talks, what he talks about. So Hype used to always be on me though, in that movie. Yo, Nas, man, you know, you gotta really do more. We're gonna have to take you out the movie. Yo, Nas, you're gonna have to really tone it down a little bit, or, you know, the producers ain't really feeling. Yo, Nas, you know, that scene, you're not really doing it for everybody. He used to be on me, bad, like pushing me. But he made me nervous as fuck because I'm like, I got the scene. The scene is easy. I know the scene in my sleep. But he's on me like a cheap suit. He's like, yo, dog, you really ain't making me believe you. But maybe because X was so good.
But I feel like you guys both complement each other, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I got a friend back home that's like crazy like DMX, but, you know, we're good friends because it's, you know, because I'm the cool, calm, collected.
Right.
I'm out of this world.
Right. Everybody knows somebody like that. Yeah.
Actually, let me bring one thing up, because I spoke to you about it before, like, just off the contrast of people's personalities. Remember I told you, like, how Busta was just talking about you and how y'all click. Like, people that don't know you, because we don't know you personally, it's like, you're more reserved. And then they're like X, Busta, more rowdy.
Right.
Regular, how does that, is that the type of people that you met with on a regular, or is something about them personally that just draw you to their personalities? Like how X, you said he's most intelligent in the way he talked. What was it about like Busta?
X was a total street dude. X is a total street dude. He's brilliant. That dude is brilliant. You know, if you talk to him, you know, you'd be like, wow. Busta is such a good spirit. Busta's like a good you know, that one of those guys that just brings that energy to you, like not hyper energy, but when he's talking to you, but just good everything. Like he's encouraging. He talks to you like, and I see him do that with everybody. Everybody I've seen Busta deal with, you know, is never on no phony. He's always showing people love. I think that's one thing that stands out about him. He'll go on stage with you and take the microphone and tell the audience how much they should appreciate you. I see him do this for a lot of people because he loves the culture. And he's someone who stood the test of time. You know, so I take my hat off to Bus. So there's a lot you can talk to him about. He was in a group signed before I was, you know, putting out records. You know, so he's been in the game that long. So I like talking with people that's been in the game that long. I talked to Eric B, and he's, you know, he tell you about things that make you understand why things are the way they are now. So I love talking with everybody that got that wisdom.
Thanks, everyone.
Appreciate it.